Hi, I'm Joe Knob. I'm the author of Brazil for Life, and I want to talk to you today about something that quite often, whether it's myself or others that have left their country of origin, and in my case the United States, for others, who knows what country they came from, they uprooted and they moved to another country and they've been there for years, and then we tend to talk about what it's like to have lived in this new country for several years and what we went through, and we talk about visas and work and learning the language and things like that. What we don't often talk about is the part that a lot of other people have yet to face, which in some ways is actually the most difficult part, is the departure and preparing for departure and making the decision to depart. So I want to talk a bit about that today, briefly, and maybe share some ideas that I think are really helpful for people that are having the hard time making that leap or that big commitment, or even made the commitment but just don't know really how to actually make it happen. And so let me talk first about it. Maybe one tip is to lighten your load quite a bit, because maybe you can't leave for a year or a couple of years. It really depends on so much on each person's individual situation. The one thing that everyone faces is you probably have a house. Either you own a house or you rent a house or an apartment, and you have all kinds of stuff, right? Maybe you even have a shoe guard storage locker full of extra stuff that doesn't fit into your house. And I'm teasing because I didn't have a shoe guard storage locker, but I had a very large house. I lived alone. I didn't have kids, so I had a very large house full of stuff. I owned a business that at one point had a little over 20 people, so I had cubicles and computers and things like this, and I had a car and loads of clothes, loads and loads of clothes. And so what happened was I made the decision to leave all kind of suddenly, because I had had experience not living outside of the country, but I'd traveled out of the country one time for a full year, a couple other times for maybe a month or two at a time. So I had had enough experience to know that I could make the leap, and it wasn't as hard for me as somebody who, say, hasn't ever left the country or hasn't ever left it for more than, say, like a 2-week vacation or something. So the easiest way to make this happen is to begin to actually leave the country before you leave the country. If you understand what I'm saying, you start selling your furniture. Start giving it away. If you have a home, sell it now. It's certainly not going to, if you're in the United States, it's not going to go up in value. It's only going to go down in value or stay the same. So if you have some kind of equity, cash out now. And then the more important thing is what to do with your money to protect that. Whether you keep it in the dollar or other currencies or gold or equities or something like that, then you find a way to protect the money from your liquidated home. But begin this process of downsizing and liquidating. This ended up being, in hindsight, the best thing I did, because I had the opportunity. I was going to sell my house. I could have rented it. It was an expensive house, so I wouldn't have been able to find somebody to rent at the price of the mortgage. But I could have covered the negative for a few years anyway, while I decided, to basically have one foot in and one foot out, right? So, I'm going to leave America for a year or two, travel a bit, maybe try to live in a new place, and if I don't like it, I come back. I still got my house full of stuff, and I can start where I left off, so to speak. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to have anything to come back to, or even feel like there was kind of a ball and chain that I wish I could stay here and just never come back, but I got to go back, my tenants moved out or something like that. So then the next option is, I could sell the home, but all the stuff I'll put in a storage locker, and pay a monthly fee for that. And with either two things, that I either decide I don't want to live overseas, so I come back and I rent or buy a house and fill it back up with the same stuff, or maybe I find a place I want to live and I put it in a container and I send it to myself. And I had a lot of stuff, I had a lot of stuff. So what I ended up doing, and it turned out to be fantastic, was I just made a simple rule. If if it didn't fit in one suitcase, I couldn't keep it. And that was it, because I didn't know where I wanted to move to. My plan was to travel for 3 to 4 years freely. I made a list of countries that, for me at the time, I wanted places that were inexpensive, that had a low cost of living, so I could live off of the small savings that I had saved up. Plus I was, investing it, and so there was going to be some investment yield, but also a little bit of principal reduction over time. But the idea was I was tired of working, I was tired of being stressed, I wanted to have some fun, but I just wanted to relax and strip my life down to where I had nothing at all to do except what I cared to do. I didn't want to be forced to work. And so what I did was I said, if it doesn't fit in a suitcase, I don't keep it. I sell it, I give it away, I throw it away, whatever. And so in the end, I had a suitcase and a one-way ticket to Ecuador and an ATM card. And I had that for 3 years, and that was it. And that was fantastic. And so that idea of just reducing and reducing. So even if I had sold the house and all or most of the furniture, and at the time I was then living in another smaller rental place where I was still managing the liquidation of everything, even if at the last minute I changed my mind, I would have been better off. I didn't need all that stuff. Like now, if I decide to move back to the U.S., I'm not going to buy a big house. I don't need that stuff. I wouldn't even live in a big city, I don't think. I'd find a smaller city to live in, a little bit, what I say, a little bit out of harm's way, possibly. And I would, build a really simple, modest life. And that, of course, is what has kept with me. Now I'm in Brazil. I've been here 8 years, and this is home. It feels more like home than home ever did. And I have some stuff now, but I realize in hindsight that the more stuff I had, the bigger the house, the more things, the more expenses as well. Just the more I had to make to cover what I spent created a lot of friction and turbulence in my life. And so one of the things I could recommend for anybody, even if you can't get out of the country but you're not feeling right now, lighten your load. Lower your cost of living even in the city you're living in, or consider a move to another city within your country. I speak mostly to Americans in this because that's my experience, but it can be anywhere. But the idea is, if you're not comfortable in America and you're not comfortable with the future or the direction it's going economically, socially, which is, one of the reasons you're probably watching this, is you're considering moving out of the country. First of all, your concerns are well-founded. And second of all, you don't have to necessarily leave the country. You can find smaller towns and get into smaller communities that are, and get near water, get near places where there's more soil that you can plant and a lot more access to water. Whatever you feel, or places where there's a lot of technology, places where on the West Coast, in the Bay Area, or I'm from Seattle, where there's a lot of technology and the cities are actually doing quite well, considering what other cities and other parts of the country are going through. So anywhere you're going to choose to live in the world, design a life where you just don't need a whole, because what happens for me is that life got better. Life got better when I ate every meal out. I ate every meal out at restaurants. I had no food in my house in Seattle ever. And it was great food. I gained a lot of weight, but there's something about making my own food. I grow a lot of my own food. Then I prepare food at home. I still go out sometimes to eat, but even then I just look for really natural, healthy food. I don't eat like a giant family-sized pizza alone anymore. It's interesting that the activities I find, going for hikes or going to the beach or spending time with friends, that don't cost anything or cost very little money, are a lot more enjoyable than the things that cost a lot of money, big nights out at clubs or partying or drinking or things like that. So what's interesting is not only do you spend less money, you have more fun, life is more satisfying, and you need to make less money. And when you need to make less money, a whole lot of other professions open up to you that weren't available to you before, or you can work less time at the same profession. You can work part-time, half the year on, half the year off, or 20 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week. So Everyone's trying to make more money, and what I'm saying is spend less money. It's the same. You gain the same. If you spend $1,000 less a month, it's the same as getting a $1,000 raise, except that it's better, because chances are the more modest and creative lifestyle and less costly lifestyle is going to be more enjoyable for you. So that's the tip for today for people who are thinking of living overseas. Okay, good luck to you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.